Yo, okay, I just want to say something really quick. I was just doing the dishes and I was thinking about these things. Okay, so first thing is the singularity. There's this dude named Ray Kurzweil. He thinks that the singularity is near. Basically, what that is, just look it up, but it has to do with like artificial intelligence, basically, like becoming super intelligent and taking up a bunch of energy, maybe creating like some kind of black hole, which is crazy, right? But he thinks that that's going to happen in 2045, which is within our lifetimes. And so I want to understand that kind of stuff. Just look him up. He was a head of engineering or something at Google. Like, I don't know. He's made a lot of predictions that are playing out. He's just a technologist guy. And I'm not saying just take his word, but like look at what a lot of people are saying. So that's kind of sounds crazy, but I think it's fun to work on. And so that's just a little bit about all the complicated stuff, especially like the quantum stuff. What else did I want to say? I think what the stuff that I think about a lot is really based on is the intersection of crypto stuff and AI stuff. Like this other guy says, his name is Balaji Srinivasan. He was the CTO of Coinbase. He is really into like decentralization and AI networks and stuff like that. He's a pretty controversial figure, but he's got a lot of good points. What he says, which I agree with, I'm just using his quote, is that like AI makes a bunch of fake stuff. Decentralized crypto projects like Bitcoin, they are ways to validate what is real and true based on the given protocol, which is an agreement on how stuff should work. So what I look at, again, is the intersection of those two things, AI and some spectrum centralization versus decentralization and compute and storage options for good protocol designs in that space. So that's what I think about. What's another thing I was thinking about? Oh yeah, so I wanted to also plug Ray Dalio. So Ray Dalio is a big role model of mine, and he says in his book, I'm a dumb shit. Like that's what he says at the beginning of it. But he founded the world's, I think, largest hedge fund called Bridgewater, and now he's like pretty much retired, I think. But yeah, he's the one that he talks a lot about principles. But what he says I'm a dumb shit, and the way that I get around that is by figuring out who are the believable people. And I think people like Balaji, with respect to the stuff that he's interested in, like AI and crypto, he's a believable person, I think. And then Ray Kurzweil, I think because he's made some pretty good predictions, he's a pretty believable person. And so I don't just look at those people, I look at any person that I could believe that I have access to or knowledge of, and figure out for myself, like based on what I know, who is likely to be a good person to believe. And I don't have a perfect answer for that, but that's what I think a lot of intelligence is just figuring out what to believe. And that's why I always talk about belief systems and how I think that validating data and ownership in an AI world is going to be a big thing to figure out. And then also I wanted to say, and just reiterate, because I know I've said this before, but like I think so one thing Y Combinator actually says is to always be focusing on building product and talking to users. I think that this method of building product, which is actually just talking to users, is the most efficient method to execute on that principle, because you're pretty much doing both at the same time. I don't get a ton of at this point it's early stages in terms of feedback from the users, all that, but how I look at the brain and information and content and building product is that it is all kind of one big functional representation, or a bunch of representations put together, and that is how we all are kind of connected. So I think just talking about it is effectively building some type of product for any viewer who's viewing. And I think it's the same if you liked something or commented something, you would effectively be building your product, whether you know it or not. That's data that you're putting out there that has a functional relationship with other entities in the universe. Yeah. So I know that's pretty crazy, and theoretical, but I think it makes sense. I was watching I wanted to give an update on kind of what I think about free will and stuff, because I remember talking about in one of the previous videos how the theory of everything is kind of like an algorithm. And again, this is why this is art. By the way, disclaimer, this is also art, and it shouldn't be taken literally. But I kind of hinted at how it's kind of a algorithm or something, but I don't think it has to be some kind of, it's both an algorithm and not an algorithm, or maybe it's like a quantum algorithm of some kind. But because of if you take that literally, like the consciousness is an algorithm, theory of everything is an algorithm, I think it's wrong. But I think if you add in a quantum element to that in a specific way, which I'm trying to define with this protocol, it's basically some functional representation that you will assume has like multiple paths or something like that. That's like what I'm saying is the key to that definition. So if you take that to be true, like if you ask Claude, what does Roger Penrose think of free will, it's kind of along the lines of his definition. So it's like we don't have free will in the way that a lot of us look at it, but it does emerge in some way from the quantum nature of information that's going on in our brain process. I think maybe the singularity will be some kind of like merging of that information at a quantum level, and I think that could happen because it's just economically. Think about information this way. It's like, I don't believe that just believing in something necessarily will make it come true. The conscious belief in believing that and putting some kind of hope into that increases the likelihood in ways that it's really hard to measure. That is what I think the element of free will that we do have, even if some other parts of it are influenced causally by other factors like priming or what you ate for lunch or how you slept or stuff like that, that you don't realize that you don't have much control over until you learn a little bit more about the mechanics of it. So I think that it will be economically and just viable in general based on like what we learn and what we can understand to lean into those more connected computing architectures where it is at a really fine-grained level. And I think because they will be more fruitful in terms of the outputs that they produce. Yeah, that's just a little brain dump. All right. Yeah, that's cool making the protocols today. That's it.